McKibben. And free Jackson in the film. Say. This should be called Hurricane Exxon. I'm going to get out of the way and let some of the speakers from the Rockaways have a turn. I just want to say thank you. This is an experimental format. You can watch the film at occupytheclimate.com. Let's say that all together. occupytheclimate.com. Thank you so very much.
Mic check. Mic check. Let's introduce our first speaker. Third, actually. Joan Flynn. Is the producer of Enviro Close-Up Free Speech TV. She lives in Rockaways. Let's have a round of applause for her.
40 years ago, when I moved with our family to the community of Rockaway, I had never heard the word climate change or global warming. I know it very well now. And actually, 20 years ago, we did start thinking about the future, and we put thermal solar panels on our home. Shorter sentences. 20 years ago. We did start thinking about these problems. And took advantage of the tax credits that were given to us by the Carter administration. And put solar thermal panels on our home. Unfortunately, very few people followed suit. So moving along to a month ago, we were listening to the media talk about Hurricane Sandy. And we didn't believe them. Even though I was very aware of climate change. I guess I just didn't want to believe them. We stayed in our home. We could only stay on the second floor after the first floor was flooded. We went out of the house during the high point of the flood because our neighbor... We went out of our house during the high point of the flood. Because our neighbors next door didn't have a second story, and we realized that we had to get them into our home. When we went outside, the water was up to my rib cage. And the smell of gasoline and fuel oil was overwhelming. We managed to get the neighbors upstairs with us. And through the night, we saw fires. To the west in Breezy Point. To the east in our own community of Rockaway. I don't want this to ever happen again. And I charge the government. And the corporations. As responsible. And it needs to stop. Alternative energy.
Alternative energy.
Clean, safe alternative energy.
Clean, safe alternative energy.
Is the only answer for our future.
Is the only answer for our future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.